You crossed the number on a Wednesday. Not a milestone birthday. Not a dramatic market day. Not the day you sold something or closed something or finally got the call you'd been waiting for. A Wednesday. You were eating leftovers at your kitchen table, laptop open, checking something unrelated, and you happened to glance at the total. You looked at it for a moment. Then you went back to the leftovers. Nobody knew. Not your parents, not your closest friend, not the coworker who sits 3 feet from you 5 days a week. The number existed in a brokerage account and a savings account and a small business account, spread across 3 places, invisible to everyone except you and the institutions that held it. You hadn't planned the secrecy. It just happened the way most things at this level happen, quietly, without announcement, accumulating in the background while the rest of your life looked exactly the same as it always had. You still drive the same car. 7 years old, 94,000 miles, a small dent on the rear bumper from a parking lot 3 winters ago that you keep meaning to fix. You still live in the same apartment. Still order the same coffee. Still show up to the same places looking like someone who's doing fine, not someone who has crossed a threshold that most people spend their entire lives imagining from the outside. The gap between how your life looks and what your accounts say has been widening for years, and somewhere along the way you stopped feeling the need to close it. The first time you had $100,000 saved, you told someone. A close friend, over drinks, carefully, the way you'd share something private. The reaction was kind. Impressed, even, for about 40 seconds. Then the conversation shifted. You filed that away. The second time you hit a significant number, you told nobody. Not because you'd learned a rule. Because you'd learned something true, that the number meant something enormous to you and almost nothing to anyone else, and the gap between those 2 experiences was lonely in a way you hadn't expected and didn't know how to explain. You think about the version of yourself that started this. 23, $400 in savings, a job that paid just enough to make leaving feel risky and not enough to make staying feel smart. You were doing the math constantly then, not because you liked math, because survival required it. Every purchase had a calculation attached. Every unexpected expense had a small panic attached. You moved through the world with a low-grade awareness of your own financial fragility that you'd gotten so used to you'd stopped noticing it was there, the way you stopped noticing background noise in a room you've been sitting in for hours. The awareness lifted so gradually you almost missed it. There was no morning you woke up and the fragility was gone. There was a year where you checked your account every day, then a year where you checked it every few days, then a stretch where you realized you'd gone 2 weeks without checking and nothing bad had happened. The math that used to run constantly in the background had slowed to something more like occasional. You didn't feel rich. You felt like the constant low hum of financial anxiety had just quieted. Enough that you could hear other things again. You didn't get here through a single dramatic decision. No inheritance. No viral moment. No lucky stock pick that you'd be able to point to later as the thing that changed everything. Just a 10-year accumulation of boring choices that nobody photographed and nobody applauded and nobody was watching closely enough to even notice were happening. The automatic transfer that started at $200 a month and became $800 a month over 4 years without any single increase feeling significant. The car you didn't upgrade when you got the raise. The apartment you didn't move out of when everyone around you was upgrading theirs. The raises that went into accounts instead of into the version of your life that other people could see. The invisibility was a side effect, not a strategy. You weren't hiding. You just never needed the number to be seen by anyone else to know it was real. And over time you started to understand that needing the number to be seen was the thing that had kept the number small for other people, the lifestyle upgrade that ate the raise, the car that cost 3 years of compounding, the apartment that required the job to continue regardless of whether the job still made sense. Visibility is expensive. You'd stopped paying for it without fully deciding to. People at work assume things about you based on how you live, which is how everyone assumes things about everyone. They assume you're doing okay. They're right, technically, but okay is doing a lot of work in that sentence. You don't correct them. Not out of strategy, just out of habit now. The number lives where it lives. It doesn't need an audience to compound. Your parents still worry about you. Your mother asks occasionally about retirement, about whether you're saving, about the future in the vague, anxious way parents ask about the future when they don't have specific information and the vagueness makes them nervous. You tell her you're working on it. You are. You have been for a decade. The thing she's worried about you starting is the thing you finished years ago, but telling her that would require a longer conversation than the number warrants, and the number has never needed a conversation to be real. You think sometimes about what you thought $1 million would feel like. You thought it would feel like arrival. Like a specific morning where things were different. Like being able to exhale in a way you'd been unable to for years. It felt like a Wednesday with leftovers. It felt like a number on a screen in a quiet apartment with a 7-year-old car in the parking lot and nobody calling to ask how you were doing and the fridge making the noise it makes when it's about to need replacing. Ordinary. Completely ordinary in a way that took you a long time to stop being disappointed by and a longer time to understand was actually the point. The number doesn't change the room you're sitting in. It changes the relationship you have with the room. Whether you're there because you have to be or because you want to be. Whether the alarm tomorrow morning is a requirement or a choice. Those things changed. Quietly. Without ceremony. On a Wednesday, eating leftovers, looking at a screen. Somewhere right now, someone is doing the math. Late at night, phone calculator, trying to figure out if it's even possible, if the distance between where they are and where they want to be is crossable in one lifetime. They don't know yet that it doesn't arrive the way they're imagining. No trumpet. No morning that feels different. No call from someone who noticed. Just a number, on a screen, on an ordinary day, in an apartment that looks exactly the same as it did the day before. They'll look at it for a moment. Then they'll go back to whatever they were doing.